Alright guys, update on BMNR stock. We talked at the weekend about how there was some real danger that you may be breaking down from this bear flag that is potentially in play on BMNR. Now, thankfully, cryptocurrency in general did rally the past few days. Bitcoin is now above $70,000. It may not remain that way for too long, but let's see. But we did manage to avoid complete catastrophe and avoid this massive breakdown. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot get some kind of a breakdown of this bear flag in the future at some point if price does want to break down. And we've talked about previously how on Ethereum and Bitcoin, there may be some kind of a similar bear flag potentially in play. So we need to wait and see how price reacts to the lower and upper bounds of this particular range that price is trading in on Ethereum, for example. And if you do break this structure, you could be going as low as even $630. It remains to be seen if we'll actually get that low, and there may even be potential for this not to play out to the downside and for us to actually go a bit higher from here. So that's what I would like to discuss today. So how would that look on the charts here on BMNR, for example, where we need to break the current range that we're in, and the top end of that sits around $24.4 or so. So if you can get a pretty nice bit of an up move going here, 15% or so, and break out, you could be looking at all the way up at $30 as your next target on BMNR, or perhaps even higher. But for now, we're very much trading in this range. Let's see where price goes. I do have one very interesting correlation which I want to show you. Now here, what we have is essentially the price of oil in white compared with the price of Ethereum in blue. And this correlation holds as well for Bitcoin. Now in the top right, you can see the correlation. We have a correlation of 0.858, which is very, very high. A correlation of 1 would mean that the assets are trading essentially in sync with one another. 0.85, so that's a very high correlation. And the correlation is to oil with an offset of 65 days. So that's what you're seeing here. Essentially, the price action on Ethereum over the past 200 days or so has very much been mirroring the price on oil with a 65-day delay. So that's a very interesting correlation. It seems to me that perhaps the market is treating Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto in a similar way to how it's treating oil, just with a delay of 65 days. So if this correlation were to hold, and I've actually seen over the past few days, the correlation has been strengthening. It was as low as 0.82 earlier in the week, and now it's as high as 0.85. So that suggests to me that the correlation is strengthening over time, and we could in fact therefore see in a month or two, perhaps in May or sometime like this, massive outperformance by cryptocurrency in general if this correlation holds. Now, there is the potential that this is just sort of a random quirk of probability and statistics, and we just happen to find this correlation by offsetting by 65 days. But I would imagine there is actually some real correlation going on here. When oil price moves up, perhaps the current regime is indicating that we may have stagflation, essentially, that inflation will be going up, that the Fed will also be cutting rates, and that kind of environment might actually be good for cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and Bitcoin. If we show Bitcoin, the correlation also is very, very high. So this could mean Bitcoin will get an up move in a couple of months. That is the most bullish thing that I'm seeing right now for cryptocurrency, and I think this is the counterpoint to the bear flags that we're currently seeing on the charts. If you can break to the upside instead of the downside, then actually might be a really good sign for crypto. And I think oil is going to be performing quite well going forward here. So if the correlation holds, then maybe crypto could be also performing very well. Of course, if this correlation does hold, then you imagine it would be very good for Bitmine, and you probably would be able to get back up to, at least $24, probably as high as $30, and maybe even go beyond that, depending on how powerful the run on cryptocurrency could be. So I just thought I would share with you a bullish perspective on crypto, which I've not really had. I've been very much thinking in a bearish way. Of course, the trend is still very much to the downside. So until this breaks upwards, you really have to be bearish, I think, on crypto in general. But that correlation really does bring me some hope that in some way crypto might actually outperform going forward. I'm not sure if I'm going to trade that myself. It's possible that if we have another sell-off day but can hold these sort of levels, I might enter some crypto positions. In general, I'm a little bit concerned about the market overall, and it's a little bit concerning to be in the software if the markets are breaking down potentially. So just some things to think about there, but we are currently in a sort of neutral stance, at least I am, and there is actually the potential for some bullish action going forward here if that correlation holds up. But thank you very much for watching. Do subscribe as always, of course, for more videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.